So people often tell me Revelation is a hot mess. And you know what? After having invested 13 hours into this game on stream over the course of a 1 week period, you know what? It genuinely isn't really half bad. Well, at its core anyway. I legitimately have never seen an MMO as empty as this one though, yet somehow it remains online. I guess the player base must well, they must expend quite a bit of money to warrant that. You know what else players should expend though? Their energy on clicking that subscribe button. It doesn't take much to do, and it would make the little guy so happy. It needs friends, and this is your opportunity to fulfill one of its lifelong wishes. Now, welcome back to another episode of Is It Worth Playing, where we sift through every MMORPG available right now in an attempt to find the best MMORPG in 2021. Today, we're taking a look at what was arguably one of the largest flops of the last decade, Revelation Online. Why was it such a large flop? Oh, don't worry, we're gonna get into that. So, Revelation Online, this game had the potential to be so good, unbelievably, undeniably, unquestionably good. At the time of its release, the market needed something like this. Something that looked as good as this looked, that played as well as this played, that presented players with the features that really allowed for it to stand out. But My.Game's poor handling, its general lack of content, the repetitious grind, and the poor business model really inhibited any chance this game had of becoming a success. But that was then, and this is now. The game at the end of 2021 is an entirely different experience now than it was way back when it launched, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's for the better. Even in 2021, Revelation Online holds up graphically. The game provides some decent character creation, allowing players to create something incredible or incredibly lacking. And with the addition of some outfits, that's pretty much the extent with which you can go about customizing your character. The world looks great, the textures definitely need some updating granted, and some of the models of both enemies and NPCs are questionable, but this game feels like you're playing through a Chinese anime series. The world itself is completely open, there are no segregated zones, everything is accessible without the need to trigger any type of loading screen, with the exception of dungeons and raids and instance PvP. The cities are large and sprawling, filled with NPCs giving the illusion of life to an otherwise empty game and world. An active population isn't everything though. MMOs like Vindictus or Mabinogi are proof of that. If a game has a dedicated community, players that genuinely love the game that they're playing, it will never truly die. Unless the publisher shuts the servers down like Gamigo or Nexon or Gameforge or, well, you guys get the drift. Gameplay is typically crucial to keeping a community of players together playing, well, gameplay and content. If a game doesn't receive content at least periodically, the game will grow stagnant and only the most dedicated players will continue to log in. However, with even a couple of updates per year, a game with fantastic combat like Vindictus or Content of the Night Seal will continue to flourish. You know, depending on your definition of flourish, of course. Combat in Revelation Online is an interesting hybrid of action and tab target. When beginning the game, you're given the option of selecting between both traditional and action game modes. Now, I would like to point out here that for the most part, the action aspect of this is more just possessing the ability to place down your AoEs, that's it. Everything else requires a target, so hybrid combat is used here quite loosely. Although for a mostly tab target MMO that gives the illusion of action combat, it's genuinely not bad. Abilities looked good. Character movement was kind of fluid, a little clunky, but no more than any other Chinese MMO. There are mounts present, which makes traversing the world, well, not difficult at all. But more impressive than traditional mounts is the fact that you can fly. There is a fully functional flight system in this game, allowing for you to fly without limitation, as opposed to games like Ion that impose a duration on the feature. Additionally, there's a teleport function allowing for you to teleport almost anywhere. This makes traversing the world pretty quick, easy, and, well, with the auto-pathing to quest objectives, the somewhat boring feature. I've noticed that Chinese MMOs have this unusual obsession with auto-pathing. Not auto-combat, but auto-pathing. Perfect World does it, Moonlight Blade does it, Swords of Legends Online does it, and Revelation Online does it. Now, it's up to you to decide whether or not you use it, but it's just, I don't know, to me it's interesting to just have there and not make use of it, you know? Like, it's not game breaking, but I guess it kind of takes you out of the world and what you're doing, but gives you the option of alt tabbing out of your game and watching some YouTube or maybe some Netflix. For all of its positives and negatives, however, Revelation Online suffers from one single flaw that makes it 100% unquestionably worth avoiding. It gates everything behind levels. You're required to hit a certain level to continue with the story, which, you know what, isn't typically an issue. Many MMOs do this. Yet, the story provides an odd level or two at a time, then locks you out of progressing until you meet the new requirement, often at least 3 to 5 more levels away. Now, they give you items every day for logging in. You can participate in daily quests like the Seeking Spirits daily that requires 3 players minimum to do, but honestly, if you can't play for more than a few hours at a time, what motivation are you going to have to continue to log in? I was locked out of the game after playing on stream for about 2 hours. Then when I attempted to stream it the next day, I got maybe 90 minutes out of it before being locked out again, requiring several levels that I just could not achieve in a single day because I couldn't do the dailies due to a severe lack of players to group up with. So I spent the entire next week logging in to do a single daily, obtaining approximately a level up per day until I was so far ahead in level that I figured I would get at least 2 or more streams out of it. And oh boy, was I wrong. After progressing for a few more hours, my story bugged, which was frustrating. That entire event took approximately 15 to 20 minutes to complete, so I redid it and it bugged again. I later learned that one of the recent updates bugged that specific story quest, and as such, I couldn't continue. I tried multiple times on more than one day just to see if I couldn't progress further to acquire additional footage, but this game would just not let me, which means that I hit a wall that cannot be passed right now, and my.games are doing absolutely nothing to remedy that. Revelation Online still looks pretty good. It doesn't play half bad either. The world is enormous and open, providing a lot of freedom to traverse it at your own pace. Yet the world itself is dead. It's empty, void of life, of other players. There is absolutely no reason to explore anything that it has to offer. The story is just so disconnected and disjointed that it may as well not even be present. The leveling experience is absolutely atrocious. Perhaps one of the worst I have had the pleasure, or in this instance, displeasure of progressing through. The player base is, well, I saw one person reply in World Chat when I asked if anyone was playing during peak hours, so, you know what, not completely dead, but for all intents and purposes, should be. So much of the game is gated behind levels and dailies that I assure you nobody wants to participate in for the 765th day in a row. And the game really shouldn't advertise its combat like it does when it's essentially a glorified tab target combat system, which, you know what, is not a bad system, but you're lying if you say it isn't. Ultimately, Revelation Online is not as bad as people complain it is, not at its core. Yes, gating content behind an arduous daily login is one of the most atrocious things that I have ever seen. I get this is a way to motivate players to log in every day, but come on, there is nobody there to group up with, to do this with if you're a new player. The game still looks good enough and plays good enough though. There's plenty to do, there's plenty to see, and as a game overall, it really isn't bad, just aspects of it are, aspects that you cannot overcome.
Someday soon I'm gonna make it, yeah.